Alexander the Great, born in 356 BC in Pella, the ancient capital of Macedonia, was one of history's most renowned military commanders and conquerors. He was the son of King Philip II of Macedonia and Queen Olympias. His early years were marked by a blend of tutelage and exposure to the intricacies of governance and warfare. As a child, Alexander exhibited exceptional intelligence and ambition. His education under the philosopher Aristotle, who taught him philosophy, science, medicine, and literature, played a significant role in shaping his future views on culture, governance, and warfare. Alexander's military journey began early. By the age of 16, he was left in charge of Macedonia when his father embarked on military campaigns. During this time, he demonstrated his military prowess by quelling a rebellion and founding a city, Alexandropolis, in honor of himself. He also achieved a significant victory over the Mede, a Thracian tribe, cementing his reputation as a skilled leader. In 336 BCE, after the assassination of his father, Alexander ascended to the throne at just 20 years old. His reign began with internal and external challenges. He swiftly consolidated his power by dealing with rebellious factions in Greece and reinforcing Macedonian dominance over the Greek city-states. Alexander's leadership qualities became evident as he swiftly managed to restore order and unity within his kingdom. Alexander's ambitions, however, lay beyond Macedonia. At the heart of his strategy was the unification of the Greek states under Macedonian hegemony and the conquest of the Persian Empire. In 334 BCE, he crossed into Asia Minor to begin his campaign against the Persian Empire, a move that would go on to define his legacy. His first significant battle was at the river Granicus, where Alexander demonstrated brilliant military tactics, defeating a much larger Persian force. This victory opened the way for further campaigns. In 333 BCE, he faced King Darius III of Persia at the Battle of Issus, another pivotal victory. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander's tactical genius shone through as he decisively crushed the Persian army. Darius was forced to flee, leaving his family behind, which Alexander treated with courtesy, adding to his growing legend as a humane conqueror. Following this, Alexander's forces moved south to Egypt, where he was hailed as a liberator. It was here that he founded the city of Alexandria, which would go on to become a major center of culture and knowledge in the ancient world. In 331 BCE, Alexander faced Darius once more at the Battle of Gaugamela near modern-day Iraq. The battle was a decisive victory that broke the back of the Persian Empire, with Darius fleeing once again, only to be killed by his own men. With the fall of Persia, Alexander assumed control of an empire stretching from Greece through Anatolia, Egypt, and into the heart of Persia. Alexander's conquests did not stop with Persia. His army pressed on to India, where he won the Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BCE against King Porus. This battle is often cited as one of his greatest, despite the fierce resistance he faced. However, his troops, weary from years of campaigning, refused to march further east, and Alexander was forced to turn back. Despite his relatively short life, Alexander's impact on the world was profound. His leadership was characterized by his charisma, strategic brilliance, and the ability to inspire and lead men in the most challenging circumstances. He often led from the front, fighting alongside his soldiers, earning their respect and loyalty. His campaigns helped to spread Greek culture throughout much of Asia, a period known as the Hellenistic era. He encouraged cultural exchange, founded numerous cities, and promoted the integration of various cultures within his empire. His vision of a world where East and West could coexist was reflected in his policies. He adopted some Persian customs and encouraged intermarriage between Macedonian and Persian nobility, seeking to blend the cultures of his conquered lands with that of Greece. This was revolutionary for the time, as it challenged the traditional boundaries between civilizations. However, Alexander's leadership was not without controversy. His later years, marked by bouts of paranoia and authoritarianism, led to tensions within his ranks. He demanded deification, which caused friction among his men, who had previously revered him as a mortal leader. His health deteriorated in 323 BCE, and at the age of 32, he died in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon. The cause of his death remains a subject of debate, with theories ranging from natural illness to poisoning. After his death, Alexander's empire fractured as his generals, known as the Diadochi, fought over the spoils. Despite the collapse of his empire, Alexander's legacy endured. His conquests reshaped the ancient world, spreading Greek culture far and wide and influencing future empires and military leaders. His vision of a world unified by culture and governance continued to influence the world long after his death. Through his leadership, he became a symbol of military genius, resilience, and ambition, leaving an indelible mark on history. The legacy of Alexander the Great continued to reverberate long after his death, shaping not only the ancient world, but also future generations. His conquests ushered in the Hellenistic era, a period marked by the blending of Greek culture with those of the Near East, Egypt, and parts of India. This cultural fusion laid the groundwork for a new world order, with the spread of Greek language, philosophy, art, and science across vast regions. Greek became the lingua franca of the Eastern Mediterranean and much of the Middle East, facilitating communication and trade between diverse civilizations. Following Alexander's death, his generals divided his empire into several Hellenistic kingdoms. The most notable of these were the Seleucid Empire in the Near East, the Ptolemaic Kingdom in Egypt, and the Antigonid dynasty in Macedonia. While the empire itself fragmented, the cultural and intellectual influence of Alexander's conquests endured for centuries. Greek-style cities continued to thrive, with Alexandria in Egypt becoming a center of learning and scholarship, home to the famous Library of Alexandria and its many scholars, including Euclid and Archimedes. Alexander's influence extended far beyond his military achievements. His vision of a syncretic world, where cultures and peoples could coexist, intermingle, and thrive together, became a model for later leaders, including the Roman Empire. The Romans, in particular, admired Alexander's military prowess and adopted many of his tactics and organizational methods, which played a critical role in their own imperial expansions. Additionally, Alexander's approach to leadership and governance left a deep impression on subsequent rulers. His ability to command loyalty from his troops, despite the hardships of long campaigns, was unparalleled. His soldiers' loyalty to him was rooted in the respect and admiration he cultivated, not just through his military successes, but also through his personal involvement in their struggles. His fearless nature, his strategic brilliance, and his tendency to lead from the front made him a legendary figure whose actions were studied by military leaders for centuries. The way Alexander handled conquered peoples also became a model for future conquerors. He showed a rare mix of diplomacy and respect toward those he defeated. In many cases, he spared cities and their, particularly in the territories he conquered. In the modern world, Alexander the Great is not just remembered as a conqueror, but as a symbol of the potential of human ambition, leadership, and resilience. His life and legacy continue to inspire individuals seeking to achieve greatness, whether in the realms of politics, military strategy, or personal ambition. His story serves as a reminder of the power of vision and determination, as well as the complexities and challenges that come with wielding such power. The enduring fascination with Alexander the Great can be attributed to the timeless nature of his accomplishments. His ability to unite vast swaths of territory, his unparalleled military genius, and his vision of a world that transcended cultural boundaries made him a figure ahead of his time. While his empire did not last long, the influence of his conquests and the cultural exchanges they facilitated can still be felt in the world today. Through his brief but transformative reign, Alexander reshaped the ancient world and left an indelible mark on history that continues to inspire awe and admiration. Citizens from destruction and encourage the blending of cultures rather than forcing a singular identity upon his empire. His promotion of intermarriage between his Macedonian soldiers and local populations was one example of his efforts to create unity through integration rather than domination. Despite these qualities, Alexander's rule was also marked by moments of excess. His later years saw a shift in his character. His growing belief in his own divinity, combined with increasing tensions within his inner circle, led to actions that alienated some of his closest companions. The execution of his friend and general, Parmenian's son, Philotas, and the subsequent death of Parmenian himself, serve as examples of the darker side of his leadership. These actions, coupled with his self-deification, suggest a leader who, while incredibly effective and visionary, was not immune to the pressures of power and success. In the centuries following his death, Alexander the Great became an enduring figure in Western and Eastern histories. In the West, his military genius was celebrated by philosophers, historians, and leaders. In the East, particularly in the regions he conquered, he was viewed as a divine figure or as a model ruler. His legend continued to inspire military leaders and conquerors, including Napoleon Bonaparte, who saw in Alexander a prototype for his own ambitions. Historians and scholars have long debated the true nature of Alexander's character. Some view him as a brilliant tactician and visionary, while others criticize his later behavior as reckless and self-destructive. Regardless, his name has endured through millennia as a symbol of military conquest, leadership, and the complex interplay between power, culture, and legacy. Alexander's empire, though short-lived, marked the high point of Greek influence in the ancient world, and his personal legend continues to captivate the imagination of people around the world. Ultimately, Alexander the Great's leadership and actions changed the course of history. The integration of cultures, the spread of ideas, and the establishment of Hellenistic kingdoms all owed their existence to his far-reaching vision and his unprecedented ability to inspire those who followed him. Through his conquest and rule, Alexander reshaped not only the map of the ancient world, but also the cultural landscape, leaving behind a legacy that would shape the future for centuries to come. As the centuries passed, the figure of Alexander the Great continued to evolve into a symbol of ultimate military prowess and heroic conquest. His story was passed down through various cultures, each interpreting his legacy in their own way. In the Western world, particularly during the Renaissance, Alexander became a symbol of the idealized ruler and warrior, with his exploits serving as inspiration for military leaders, artists, and writers. His campaigns were often celebrated in works of art, literature, and theater, reinforcing his image as a legendary figure. In the East, Alexander's conquest and his policy of cultural integration were remembered with reverence. In Persia, his defeat of Darius III and the subsequent fall of the Achaemenid Empire were seen as a transformative event, and over time, Alexander was even deified in certain regions. The Persian kings who followed Darius were often compared to Alexander, with some rulers adopting elements of his policies to strengthen their own power. In India, Alexander's brief but impactful campaign left a lasting mark on the subcontinent. Although his army turned back before achieving further territorial expansion, his encounter with King Porus on the banks of the river Hydas became an iconic moment in Indian history. Indian historical records, including the ancient text Indica by the Greek historian Megasthenes, recount Alexander's visit, detailing his interactions with local rulers and his army's encounter with the diverse cultures and civilizations of the region. The image of Alexander the Great also began to take on religious and mythic overtones over time. In some cultures, especially in the Near East, he was considered a semi-divine figure, a concept that was promoted after his death by his successors and followers. The blending of Greek and local cultures under his rule further solidified the perception that Alexander was more than just a mortal leader. This blend of myth and reality has contributed to his enduring mystique. In the medieval period, Alexander's name became synonymous with the ideals of chivalry, bravery, and kingship. In many European traditions, he was elevated to the status of a model king whose virtues were revered and imitated. Many medieval writers and poets composed epic tales of his adventures, sometimes blending historical events with fantastical elements. The Alexander Romance, a collection of stories that grew over centuries, portrayed him as a hero who conquered the world not only through military might, but also through wisdom and virtue. Alexander's influence on later military leaders was profound. Figures like Julius Caesar, Charlemagne, and Napoleon Bonaparte all looked to him as a source of inspiration. Napoleon, in particular, saw himself as a successor to Alexander, both in terms of military brilliance and imperial ambition. Napoleon's admiration for Alexander is evident in his many references to the Macedonian king in his personal writings and speeches. Similarly, Caesar's own military campaigns echoed some of Alexander's strategies, particularly his use of surprise and psychological warfare to defeat larger forces. In the modern era, the study of Alexander the Great continues to captivate historians, military scholars, and the general public. His tactics and strategies are still analyzed in military academies around the world. His ability to adapt to changing circumstances on the battlefield, his use of propaganda, and his innovative military formations, such as the famous Macedonian phalanx, are central to the study of military history. Moreover, Alexander's leadership style, marked by his ability to unite diverse peoples and cultures under his rule, is often discussed in the context of leadership studies. His ability to inspire loyalty, make bold decisions, and lead from the front has made him a model for leaders across various fields. While his later years were marked by moments of authoritarianism and paranoia, his earlier achievements are often cited as examples of effective, transformative leadership. As an icon, Alexander's impact is not limited to the realm of history and military studies. His story has been retold in countless films, books, and other forms of media, ensuring that his legacy endures. The most notable of these retellings is Oliver Stone's 2004 film Alexander, which aimed to bring his life to the screen and highlight the complexity of his character and ambitions. The portrayal of Alexander in modern media continues to reflect the multifaceted nature of his legacy, from his unparalleled military conquests to his controversial decisions and moments of brilliance and self-doubt. In the realm of philosophy, Alexander's legacy is tied to the influence of Greek thought on the cultures he encountered. While his conquest spread Hellenistic ideas, philosophers like Aristotle, who was his tutor, also shaped the intellectual landscape of the time. Though Alexander himself was not known for his philosophical contributions, his role in spreading Greek ideas and his close relationship with Aristotle made him a pivotal figure in the dissemination of Greek philosophy.